A request for determination of ability for 100 Gray Neck Road, map 11, parcel X5 for septic upgrade.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
We actually have to, I mean, we can do it after, but I do want to let you know that we have a submission of a land grant.
Okay.
It should be right before that on the
Yes, I
agenda.
see that. It's highlighted.
Yeah, we can do it after 100 Gray Neck if you want, since you
All right.
already announced it.
Yep, okay. Do we have any proponents here for this property, for this presentation?
100 Gray Neck Road. I know that they're planning on being here, so we'll put it off till later.
So we'll go back to the vote for approval of submission of the land grant application for 0 Spruce Road
Yep.
property.
So I'll represent this. The town and is hoping the Conservation Commission to support the submission of a land grant in the amount of $400,000 in order to purchase a conservation restriction on the 70 acre property at 0 Spruce Road called Great Woods, currently owned by the Coppolas family. So what you have in your packets is a signature page as well as a letter. This was in your Dropbox to support the land grant application. It's so the $400,000 would help to offset the cost of the acquisition of the property, which was supported at town meeting.
Has everyone had a chance to review the letter that's in our package? Take a few minutes to do that.
I have a copy if anybody wants to see it. I do need it back. This is the one that hopefully Ernie will sign.
This is the property that is north of Long Pond, correct?
It's
South.
it's north of the highway.
South of
Sorry,
Long Pond, I'm
south.
sorry, yeah.
Yes,
North Queen Anne Road.
north of Queen Anne Road. Yes.
Yeah.
South of the highway.
It's in the Six Ponds Conservation Area. It's part of, it's adjacent to Hawk's Nest and other town conservation land. Yeah.
Any questions, comments? Let's start with Wayne.
I don't have any.
Helen?
No.
Jim?
No comment.
John? Mark?
No comment.
Any comments, questions? I have none. So can we have a motion then?
I'll move that we approve the submission of the land grant application for the property located at 0 Spruce Road.
And second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion passes. We will approve the land grant request letter.
Ernie, if you wanna sign that,
Okay.
you can, and I'll have the rest of you sign at the end of the meeting. Actually, Mr. Chairman.
Amy, can you tell me if you can hear me?
I can hear you, Rick. The applicant for 100
Thanks.
Gray Neck is now on when you're ready. Just 1 minute, Rick.
Okay, I'm doing this from my phone.
Yep, wait 1 minute.
Proposed septic system
We're good, I think, Amy.
is an upgrade based on a Title V report that deemed a failure. What we have is a pump chamber, and 50% of the leaching area falls within the 100-year floodplain. The proposal removed one large tree on property, and there are no coastal resources, rivers, wetlands within 100 feet of this property. It is a residential neighborhood.
Okay. Amy, do you have comments on this?
Yeah, it was very hard to hear you, Rick, but I think we got the gist of it. But just for the commission's edification, this is a septic upgrade. The existing system has failed. They're proposing to replace and upgrade it. The existing components are to be pumped and filled or removed. The work area is in lawn and driveway. The only wetland resource area here is flood zone. You don't have any other wetlands of interest. So, I would recommend approval of the project with a -2 determination. That work would take place in a resource area, technically, the floodplain, but will not have an adverse impact. Also with the condition that they don't fertilize or treat area in the flood zone on the property.
Okay, good, thank you. So let's have some questions from the commissioners. Wayne?
No, I don't have any. It's
No?
one of those situations where it's better than what's there now, so.
Yes, it is. Jim, any questions?
No question.
Questions I had, and I don't know if you can hear me all right. Rick, can you mute your phone for a minute? All right, that
Star
got it.
6 is to
Um,
come on to the meeting.
Two questions I had for you. One is the purpose, this property, I assume it's gonna be a tear down and rebuild? Is the first question, and you can get back
That
to
is
me.
not correct.
Okay,
No, that is not correct. It is, they're going to rehab the house.
rehab the house, all right. So it will stay where it is, which leads me to my next question is there any reason that they've decided to situate the pump chamber and leaching field within the flood zone where there is space on the side of the house that they could relocate it to and be outside of the flood zone?
There's not enough room for the leaching area to fit any other way, and we're trying to make this functional as well as comply with Title V. So this is functionally set in there. We saw no adverse effect with placing it the way we did. I see no advantage to kicking the septic tank further away from the house. Right now, what we're trying to do is create a straight run to the tank as straight as possible. And we're trying to leave one tree intact forward of the garage on the west side.
So it's a combination both of trying to have the straight runs to the tank, which once it gets into the tank, and once it gets to the pump chamber, you can basically pump it anywhere, right?
Well, we have, that is correct, but you should note that we have a 5-foot overdig of soil, which takes up quite a bit of room here. So it makes the most sense to put the tank within that impact area.
Okay, all right. Nobody has any other concerns then?
There might be public comment, Mr. Chairman.
Any public comments on this from members of the audience? All right, hearing none, can we have a motion, please?
Sure. I'll move that we approve the request for a determination of applicability for 100 Gray Neck Road, map 11, parcel X5, with a -2 determination.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
All right, next item on the agenda is 426 Main Street, parcel 47, map A3-1, for a proposed addition, deck expansion, and tree removal.
Want the green cards?
Yes, please. You can also scan them and email them to us, not a big deal.
Good evening. My name is Dan Ojala. I'm a land surveyor and civil engineer with Downcape Engineering in Yarmouthport, and helping the Steves out with a fairly straightforward matter here at 426 Main Street in Harwich. Kathleen is with me tonight if there are any questions of the owner. What we're looking to do here is get approval, hopefully under the RDA, for a small addition and a deck expansion, and it's especially small within your jurisdiction. At 426 Main Street property. It's a 37,000-foot property. It's got existing dwellings around. There is a vegetated wetland off to the north and east, and no work will take place within any priority or estimated habitat, just a little bit of buffer zone work. We're looking at putting a 12 by 25 addition and expand the existing deck. There's, you can see colored there on the plan. The yellow is a footprint expansion, so you can see some of that is already deck and steps underneath it, and where I have colored in red is the area that's within the 100. It's only 110 square foot on the very outer 90-something feet away from the wetland. So it's, when you multiply by a factor of 2, we owe you 220 square foot of mitigation. And so we did propose that to offset the hardscape increase per your buffer regulations. And further, there's a request to remove 3 trees within the 100-foot buffer. If you went to the site, we have them tagged. There's kind of an ungainly triple stem maple. I think it's an invasive Norway maple in the center there. There's a very small 3-inch maple just to the left of it. And then within the 50, but there's a big dead, I guess pine borer's probably got it down near the wetland. We're just concerned about that falling into an area where there might be humans, so I'd like to take that one out. It's right on our lot line on the east side there. So those were flagged out in the field. Paul Shea had, of Independent Environmental, had done the wetland delineation. We've got a work limit line installed, and that'll remain in place, and we'll stage all the work outside the 100-foot buffer. So hopefully this would pass muster as the lesser filing, the RDA filing, is not rising to the level of requiring a notice of intent, in that we've put a nice work limit line there, and we're just on the outer perimeter of the 100-foot buffer, except for a little bit of tree work. And of course, some light plantings. The schedule of plants is on the upper left of the plan. So that would be the presentation. I'd be glad to answer any questions if you have them.
Good, thank you. Amy, do you have comments?
Is the proposed addition to be on a full foundation or crawl space? Okay,
Full foundation.
Upstairs to the basement, because we can't really get to our basement now, which is the last year.
thank you. I have no other questions. It's a very small increase in square footage in the outer part of the 100-foot buffer zone, about 120 square feet of new structure. They're offsetting that at a 2-to-1 ratio with native plantings against where the existing native plants come in, and the plantings that they have proposed are appropriate for this area. I have no issue with the removal of the 2 invasive maples and the hazard pitch pine. So I'd recommend approval with a -3 determination. Work would take place in the buffer to the resource, but not have a negative impact.
Hello?
And no chemicals or fertilizers
I'm on.
are to be
I'm
used
watching
in
you
the
right now.
100-foot buffer zone.
Okay, good, thank you. Questions from Commissioners Wayne,
No, I don't have any. It's pretty simple.
Al, Jim,
No questions?
John?
I didn't realize I was unmuted. Okay, thank you.
And I have no questions either. I think it's fairly straightforward, and the impact is
Let's see what happens.
relatively minimal. So, could I ask the
know.
people on the phone if you mute your phone
Or computers,
until
phones and
you're
computers.
presenting? Yeah, thank you. So with that, can we have a motion, please?
Sure. I'll move that we approve the request for a determination of applicability for the property located at 426 Main Street, map 47, parcel A3-1, with a -3 determination.
Good, thank you, Jim. Second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you so much.
All right, next item on the agenda is a request for determination of applicability for 45 Neal Road for a proposed addition, pool house, and hardscape work. This is a property that we've looked at previously to assess the characteristics of it, whether it's coastal bank, flood area, whatever. But we have a proponent for this.
That is correct. For the record, Sean Riley, Coastal Engineering, representing the applicant. This is the property at 45 Neal Road that we withdrew the application for the coastal bank determination. I think we all came to some agreement that it doesn't act as your typical coastal bank as far as flood protection, because it is a depression at the rear of the house here at 45 Neal Road. So we agreed to withdraw it and come back before you, if it was acceptable to Amy, to file it as a RDA rather than a notice. So we provided her with the plan that you see before you to get her comment before filing the RDA, and that is what we have here before you. The proposal is to fill in a portion of that depression in the backyard, to install a swimming pool with some patio surround, proposed pool house, and an addition off of the main house. I provided you with part of the narrative that addressed the all the interests of the act within this area. I won't go through them. If there are any questions specifically about them with regards to pollution prevention, habitat, flood control, I can address those questions. But it seems pretty straightforward that we're not going to have any impact on any of the other resource areas. We won't have any impact on the coastal bank or the function of the coastal bank. And as far as the habitat, we're far removed from any other resource area. So it's not your typical habitat that we'd be looking to protect as far as the overwintering birds or anything close to the shoreline, as we are removed and we are essentially in the middle of the neighborhood. So with that, I'll just open it up to any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you very much, Sean. Amy, do you have comments?
So if the commission recalls, they were recently in front of us for us to determine if it was floodplain, and the commission and myself, our read of the definition of coastal bank is that this does meet the criteria for a coastal bank. However, it doesn't act as your traditional coastal bank. It is not a sediment source coastal bank. It is not on the seaward face. Basically, from Saquatucket Harbor to this property, there's a very low-lying area vein that extends from Saquatucket all the way to the rear of this property. And only when you get to the rear of this property do you have this coastal bank that is, in the event of a flood, could be a buffer to help prevent flooding to the rest of this property. So it's a little bit unusual. And so the commission agreed at the time to consider granting a variance depending on what the project was. And so here we are now. Again, it's not a sediment source to a coastal beach. It's not habitat. What they're proposing to do is fill the hole in the backyard and fill the flood zone and build an addition, pool house, patio, pool house, pool, patio, walkway, and retaining wall. I put in an email to Sean about the mitigation requirements. Normally, if you were doing work actually in a resource area, which by definition you are here, but in practicality, I would argue it's not practical. We would normally require 4-to-1 mitigation for work in a resource area, 3-to-1 for work in the 0 to 50, etc. As this is not a coastal bank significant to those normal interests, I would suggest mitigation, but at a 1-to-1 ratio. If this was purely flood zone, we wouldn't typically require any mitigation. But as this is not just flood zone, is by definition a coastal bank, and could be a vertical buffer in the event of a major coastal storm, we should require something, which is why I think we should require the 1-to-1. By revegetating the new slope that we're creating, that they would be creating with new native species, habitat would be created. It is just clump grasses now, and forgive me, I can't remember the species that's out there. They're kind of low clump grasses. Also, your plan didn't show the 50 and 100-foot buffer zones on it, and it should. So those are my comments. I don't have any recommendation yet because I didn't see the mitigation statement that I made in email addressed, and we don't have a plan that shows the buffer zones.
Through the chair, if I could address the comments about the mitigation.
Yes, please.
I guess the reason why we didn't propose any mitigation is typically provided to offset some sort of an impact to the resource area. And just looking at this specific resource area, it doesn't really function as anything, even a vertical buffer. It's a depression in the backyard. So this is why we didn't provide mitigation. And I guess I'd be interested to hear how the commissioners feel about requiring mitigation for this project.
Okay, good, thank you. Comments, Wayne?
I don't really have any.
Okay. Alan?
I don't have any issues with his request.
Okay. Jim?
I really have no comments or questions, but I think I would go along with Amy's recommendation for the 1-to-1 ratio on mitigation.
All right. John?
Yeah, I agree with Amy, and I guess I have a question, which is about, the bank that is being created by adding a bunch of fill looks like a rather steep grade, and I have a couple questions. One is about the stability of that grade while the construction is going on. Chances are very good that there would not be a 100-foot flood over the few months of construction here, but it could happen, and once construction is done, from my point of view, one of the reasons for requiring some planting there, this plan doesn't show what would go on that grade, at least not that I see, and there should be a very well-defined planting plan for that grade, which it would make sense to me that would be part of the mitigation. But the other part that's completely missing here, if we're thinking about requiring mitigation at 1-to-1, is I have no idea what the area is here. So it's really kind of hard to agree or disagree there, at least at a very, very much at a minimum. We should understand what the plan is for that very steep bank that's being created.
Thanks, John. Mark?
I have no questions.
Stan, any comments, questions? Do you have any comments, questions?
I agree with John's comments, that's all.
All right. Yeah, I tend to agree with John's comments as well. My concern when I looked at the plan was the slope that's being proposed for the backyard. The other concern that I have, initially when we were looking at this property, and the question was whether it's not only floodplain, but also a coastal bank. And at the time, or currently, there's a large depression in the back of this house, which in the event of a 100-year flood, I would assume would absorb a lot of the water that would come into that backyard and keep it from moving beyond that depression, which would impact the neighbors' houses. So, I'm concerned that filling in that depression will potentially have a negative impact in the event of a flood on neighboring properties. You want to address that at all, Sean?
Sure, absolutely. So this area, this flood zone is designated as an AE zone, which is a still water flood zone. It's not listed as an AH zone, which would be a hydraulically constricted flood zone or floodway, which means that the volume of water, if it were to be a hydraulically constricted, the volume of water would play into this. Essentially, we're talking about the volume of the ocean in this stance. So what you have is the flood waters coming in, rising up to elevation 11. And wherever that elevation 11 contour is, that would be the extent of the flooding. So whether that contour is back here or over here, that would be the extent of the flooding. Right now, the 11 contour comes down around to the neighbor's house, and that's where it would go. That would be the extent of the flooding, would be to the 11 contour, because the area is not hydraulically constricted. So that means that the volume water really doesn't play into that fact. As far as the slope stability, This is a 3-to-1 slope. These are 1-foot contours. They're not 2-foot contours. We could absolutely provide slope stabilization with biodegradable erosion control blankets. It seems like the commission is leaning towards that 1-to-1 mitigation. We have about 3,500 square feet of coverage within the 50-foot buffer. The 50-foot buffer approximately goes through the middle of the house from the top of the coastal bank. This area here is about 5,000 square feet. So we'd be amenable to planting a native grass mix of little bluestem, nodding fescue, pollinator species, and even supplementing with some native shrub colonies, black chokeberry, arrowwood viburnum, some serviceberry. So we would be amenable to add that into this rear area to establish a better wildlife habitat for the wildlife that is there, and we'd be glad to revise the plan to reflect that.
If I may, real quick. Not only for wildlife habitat, but you're creating all this new hard surface. So that would, while you may be treating your runoff, which we can't tell based on the plan from the patio or the pool house, a mix of plantings like you mentioned of the native grasses as well as the native shrub plantings would also help if there was overflow from any of those structures, deal with any runoff without causing massive erosion, so.
All right, thank you. I will ask, it looks like we have a gentleman in the audience who'd like to speak. Please introduce yourself, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Richard Waystack. I'm a direct abutter. I'm at the northeast bound corner of the parcel at 55 Neal Road. And as a realtor, I believe in private property rights, people doing things for their property as they wish. I do have a couple of concerns. First is that depression. I have a low-lying area at that corner where my bound is, what meets this lot. The filling in of the ditch does have some concern to me, and I want to make sure that that bank is stabilized so nothing does come. And with the addition of the hardscape that's there will be more runoff. And the neighbors have had it beautifully done to this point, and it's been held very, very well. The other concern I don't think you have any control over is I'm one of the 3 year-round residents who lives on Neal Road. And love my neighbors, love their opportunities. We're seeing pools popping up left and right. And one of the things I ask, and if the neighbors are on, I see they're on the call tonight, I would just ask their courtesy and consideration. That if they're putting up a pool house, which they are, they're putting an addition, that when they do their lighting, instead of the spotlights that we're seeing coming into our windows every night, that they do down lighting. And one of the biggest issues that we have in this area, there's directly behind it, you see in Spinnaker Lane, the abutting property has a pool as well. They have the speakers that face away from the house. And those are well and good for people to have a party, but at 10, 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, those speakers get a little bit loud. So I would ask my neighbors, if they are on the call this evening, that they take their neighbors into consideration when they do this project. And they keep all lighting as down lighting and not spots. And if they are going to amplify music, that they do it in such a way that the music goes into the ground and not to the neighborhood. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That was good, thank you. Any other comments from people on the phone? All right, hearing none. It sounds to me like, well, let me put this to a motion. There are concerns about mitigation plans, which we do not have.
Or at least vegetation plans to know what would be on that very steep slope.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm recommending mitigation.
Also 50 and 100 foot.
Yeah, the 100 might be off property, but certainly the, actually it wouldn't be on the kind of the northwest side, but the buffer zones, please, on the plan.
Yeah, so we have some more work that it sounds like we would need. How would you like to proceed with this?
Yes, and could we ask for a continuance to the next hearing to add those items to the plan?
Yep, so that would be July 20th is the next hearing date. We would need revisions by next Wednesday, the
Not a problem.
13th, okay?
Very good.
Then we have a motion to that effect then?
Okay, I will move that we continue the hearing for the request for a determination of applicability for 45 Neal Road, map 16, parcel N1-41, until our meeting of July 20th, 2022.
And a second, please?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is a request for determination of applicability for 52 North Road, map 19, parcel S1.
Thank you. Thanks. Got it.
Hi, good evening. I'm Stephanie Sequin. I'm an engineer with Ryder and Wilcox. I'm representing Tom Smith, who's the owner of the, and I'm sorry, you introduced 52 North Road, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the owner of 52 North Road, as well as the property across the street at 47 North Road. Mr. Smith is on the call, along with Chris Alphen and Jim Mitchell, who are also representing Mr. Smith. And I think maybe Chris wanted to, did you want to start off?
Well, Stephanie, I think for the record, Attorney Christopher Alphen, Blattman, Bobrowski, Haverty, and Silverstein. I think if it's okay with you, Mr. Chairman, I would like to proceed with Stephanie's presentation on the substance of the application tonight. And I am certain that the commission may have some questions for us. And after she makes a presentation, we would be happy to answer some questions the commission might have.
All right, thank you.
And would it make sense to, at the same time, discuss the application for 47 North Road, which is a request to amend an order of conditions?
Let's do them separately, I think would be best at this point.
Okay. 52 North Road, we are requesting that you approve a revised plan for a septic system upgrade here. 52 North Road has an existing two-bedroom home. It abuts a bordering vegetated wetland that is associated with the Herring River. The entire property lies within land subject to coastal storm flowage. The 100-year flood zone is elevation 11, and it is an A zone. Back in 2019, we filed a request for determination of applicability to allow the upgrade of the existing septic system, and that, at the time, was being done in order to sell the property. It was on the market. It had a failed system, so the previous owners went ahead and had a new septic system designed and approved. So back in 2019, the commission issued a negative determination of applicability to allow a new Title V system, which consisted of a septic tank, pump chamber, that pumped the effluent up to a raised leaching system that was to be constructed within a poured concrete containment wall due to the shallow depth to groundwater. Several variances were at the same time granted by the Board of Health, so everything was approved and permitted for the upgrade for the existing two-bedroom home. What's being proposed now is to construct a shared septic system which will serve the existing two-bedroom home at 52 North Road and also the existing one-bedroom home that's located across the street at number 47 North Road. So the plan has been revised from what you previously approved to include a slightly larger leaching system that is designed to accommodate the total of 3 bedrooms. Still a septic tank, pump chamber, pumping to a raised system to be constructed within a poured concrete containment wall in more or less the same location. On the revised plan, we expanded the leaching area toward the property line to the west and to the south, so away from the resource area. The new containment wall is actually a little bit, and leaching system is actually a little bit further away from the wetland, because, as I said, we expanded toward the property line as opposed to toward the wetland. So that is what we are requesting at number 52 North Road is, since there was a negative determination of applicability, there's not really a process for amending a determination of applicability as you normally we do for an order of conditions. So we're just requesting that you approve the revised plan.
So the two projects are conjoined, basically, aren't they?
Yes, they were originally approved independently of one another, but now we're trying to get approval for a shared system now.
Okay, and then the second item that you have before us then is an amended order of conditions for 47
For
North Road.
47, correct.
Do you want to describe that then?
I would be happy to, yes. Again, for the record, Stephanie Sequin with Roder and Wilcox and representing Tom Smith, owner of the property at 47 North Road. There's an existing one-bedroom house located adjacent to Herring River. There's a timber bulkhead that surrounds the property and acts as a coastal bank. The 100-year flood elevation goes from A-zone elevation 12 to A-zone elevation 11, so still very well within the flood zone. There's also salt marsh on the property. It has a cesspool, and back in 2019, when the house was on the market to be sold, the previous owners filed a notice of intent and got approval to install a tight tank at this location, a 1,000-gallon precast concrete tank that would be installed in below grade. Whatever went into the tight tank would have to be pumped out periodically by a septic pumper and brought to a treatment plant. Again, the order of conditions was issued in May of 2019. In November of 2019, Mr. Smith bought the property and is now the owner. What is being proposed now, rather than having that 1,000-gallon tank potentially full of sewage in the ground, in the flood zone, in close proximity to the river and the salt marsh, we are proposing instead to install a sewage ejector, which would be in a small fiberglass basin, similar to what people very often have in their basements if they have a bathroom in their basement, and it pumps up. It holds a pump that pumps the effluent up to a gravity line. So that's what we're proposing here, is a sewage ejector to be installed in the crawl space of the building, and a force main going under North Road, connecting to the proposed septic tank on 52 North Road, and then being pumped up to the expanded leaching system that is being proposed on number 52. So because there is a valid order of conditions for this number 47, we are requesting an amended order of conditions to allow this, the change from the tight tank on 47 to an ejector basin and force main discharging to the proposed septic system at 52.
Okay, good.
Hopefully
Thank you.
that's clear as mud.
Thank you. And Attorney Alpin, you have a comment?
Well, obviously, the board is aware of correspondence we've had about both properties and the outstanding violations. And I'm sure that Amy gave you an update in executive session, and her update, I'm sure, was appropriate and accurate. You know, we've made progress on curing some of these violations. We understand and recognize that there are maybe some still, there's still violations that may be outstanding that my client is responsible for cleaning up. And we want to proceed cleaning up those issues. There is one issue regarding the docking and modifications to the docking, which we believe is required for structural purposes. And we plan on filing a notice of intent or amendment to the existing order of conditions on that issue, however it might be. And my client has engaged with an engineer, a structural engineer, to prepare that application, and that is forthcoming. So we understand that there's still some ongoing issues, and we plan on continuing to make progress on those ongoing issues and make sure that everything is in compliance in short order.
Okay. Amy, would you like to comment on this?
Sure. I'm going to stick to the applications at hand. So when I was asked, this is number 52, when I was asked what type of filing this would be to change it from a 2-bedroom septic system to a 3-bedroom septic system in really the same spot, just a little larger, that was approved, I had said, okay, let's do it kind of as a minor change. That's how I would normally handle things. When it was submitted to me, it came in with an additional item, which was a new driveway, to replace the old driveway. Had I known this at the beginning, I would have said, I would suggest a new application for this, because it's not a simple plan change. It's not a simple, minor change. It's a new item that you're asking for. So I sent an email about this in the past week or so. I agree, the existing paved driveway is closer to the wetland than the proposed would be. The existing driveway is paved, it's 612 square feet. The proposed driveway is much farther from the wetland, but I don't know what the materials for that driveway would be. So at this time, I'm recommending a new RDA. I don't think this is appropriate as a minor plan change, and had I known it was going to have something in addition to the septic on it, a new project, if you will, I would not have recommended a change in plan.
All right.
Do you want me to do 47 as well, or do you want to, I'll comment on 52 first?
I'd like to get comments on 52
Okay.
first, because I think what you've just outlined is something new for our discussion. So let me turn to the commissioners. Wayne?
My only concern is if we allow these things to take place, that what kind of mechanism we have to enforce the outstanding issues against this property?
Okay. Alan?
Yeah, no comment.
Jim?
Well, I have a general concern that I think is roughly similar to Wayne's, in that I'm concerned about proceeding with approval on these types of changes or new applications or whatever, when we have so many outstanding issues with this applicant.
Okay. Thank you. John?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with all of the above, including what Amy had to say, so I don't have anything really to add.
Mark?
I don't have anything further to add.
All right, good. Stan, do you have any comments or questions?
I agree with all the comments you made about the outstanding things, but the main point is, for this project, whether the other things are going to get done or not, the project should be a new RDA. That's the first step, and then you get voted on that. The rest of the stuff is subsequent to this.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and I can't really add to anything that's already been said. I too was somewhat surprised. I mean, you've talked about the septic system being upgraded, but there was no discussion about the driveway. It's kind of like being slipped in here, which is a little disturbing to me.
And if I may, that was, I will say, an oversight. we actually thought it was a good thing to remove the paved driveway within feet of the wetland and replacing it with a pervious driveway further away. If we were to withdraw that from the request for the amended plan, could we go forward with the change to the septic design under the current application?
The concerns that I've heard from the commissioners are that it's more than that. That it's, given the outstanding violations that we're currently trying to address and resolve, we're just adding to those with new improvements to the property, and we've still not resolved all of the fines that are outstanding and the changes that need to be done. So I'm not comfortable necessarily with doing anything at this point, certainly to 52, and we can have the same comments from commissioners, I suspect, with respect to 47. But let me ask if there are any people from the audience that have any other comments, questions? All right, hearing none. So it seems that we'll have to vote on these two items separately. The first one is the request for...
Well, Mr. Chairman, if I would, is there any chance that the commission might entertain an opportunity for the applicant to cure these violations and continue these hearings and allow a little bit of additional time? We're on the hook for more reasons than one. And my client's very motivated to get these issues completed. And if the commission might view these applications differently, if all the issues have been cured, I think that maybe we would like that opportunity.
Yes, I think the motivation has been somewhat absent from anything we've seen for the past 3 years, so I challenge you on that comment, but nonetheless. So what I hear you saying, though, is you would like to request an extension on these two applications?
Indefinitely continue.
Indefinitely continue is what Amy's suggesting.
I think that we want to keep this moving, so if we could have a continuance to a date certain, I think that might help us motivate us and keep us focused on the task at hand. So if we could continue to a date certain, I'd appreciate it.
Do you have a recommendation?
Sometime in early August.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest early August. Our first August meeting is August 3rd. So our meetings in August are the 3rd and the 17th.
3rd or the 17th?
My client is on the call. Sorry we couldn't be there tonight. Tom, does that work for you?
Yeah, August 3rd works for me.
All right.
And what I'm hearing from the commission is that they would like to see a lot of improvements and the property in a better state by August 3rd. And there might be a better reception of our applications.
Yeah, and I understand that, and I have a plan to do it. I've already bought the plants that Amy wanted me to do for 52, and I've talked with a landscaper that's going to get the stone out of 47, and I'm still working with my structural engineer on plans for shoring up that bulkhead so my property doesn't fall into the river.
I'd just caution you that you have a lot of work to do in less than a month then if you are targeting the 3rd.
I understand that, but I want to work towards this as fast as possible. I've owned these properties since 2019, paying taxes, insurance, and I haven't been able to live in either one of them. So as soon as I can get it done, the better it is for me. I've been working with Stephanie at Ryder & Wilcox for more than a year now, trying to process this new septic design, and I just want to make it happen ASAP.
I would just caution you, as I did on site the other day, that you really shouldn't be planting in the middle of summer. I know it's only a few plants, but their likelihood of success is not high in the summertime, even with watering. So I'd recommend, spring or fall planting is typically best. It's not just that you actually have to plant the items, the plants have to survive. So. would just-
I understand that, Amy, and that's fine with me as well. If fall is the designated schedule, I'll be happy to meet with you or talk to you about what you want and where you want it, and I'll plan it in the fall.
The other item that's hanging over these applications that is of concern to me, and I'm sure all the other commissioners, is the issue of the pending fines. Absent some resolution on those, I'm not certain that all of the commissioners would be comfortable with moving forward with any changes to this. Do you have any comment on that, Attorney Alpin?
No comment other than, that is with the district court right now, and we hope that that's another motivating force for us to get this done. And we hope that we are at a position at some point in the near future where the town is going to be happy about the position and the condition of the property, to not want to find the property. That is our hope and our desire, and we know we're on the hook to do that.
Okay, obviously, if you complete this work by the 3rd, then the fines would cease to be imposed, so.
Well, they would cease to accumulate.
So cease to accumulate, yes.
What's
Thank you.
already
New
accumulated.
fines would not be.
Yeah.
Jim, yes?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have quite a bit of concern with regard to proceeding on a continuance to a meeting in early August. These issues have been going on for years. I am very skeptical of their ability to get all of the violations corrected and have the time for Amy to go out and inspect and certify that they've been corrected by a meeting on August 3rd. Also, as has been referenced, there is a court hearing with regard to the fines during the month of August. I am very reluctant to proceed with any of this until all violations have been corrected and all fines have been paid. I don't see that happening till by August 3rd. I would be more in favor of the continuance that Amy had recommended, an indefinite continuance, as opposed to coming back on August 3rd, finding that everything hasn't been corrected, and then having to have another continuance and going on like that potentially for another few years. This has been going on for years. So I am concerned about while I don't disagree with the continuance, I'm concerned about a continuance for a date so soon as August 3rd.
I have a question. So if it's not continued to a date certain, how do we get back before you?
I think the way that I would propose, and Amy, you can correct me if you think I'm wrong, is that you would go to Amy and demonstrate that you have, corrected all the violations and paid all the fines, and then Amy would put it on the agenda for the next coming meeting.
Well, you would so for a change in plan, you don't have to notify abutters. For the amendment, you do. So that would, you'd essentially say, okay, we're ready to get it back on. You do the change in plan, hopefully, and then for 52, and then if you're ready, then you would re-notify your abutters for 47.
Yeah, so I would prefer that type of approach.
I think I would agree with that as well. I'm just not comfortable with the August 3rd date,
Yeah.
given the performance to date.
Now, if you get everything, corrected very quickly and go to Amy, I doubt you could meet August 3rd, but maybe you could meet sometime later in August or early September.
Okay,
Shoot
I
for it
will
on your
defer
end.
to Attorney Alphin to make that call.
I think that would be fine as long as Amy and I are on the same page, that we keep communicating. And, I think it would be quite embarrassing for us if we were in front of this board and the violations were not cured. So, I'm fine with that approach. as long as Amy and I can continue to communicate and continue to discuss about the status of the property to make sure that we do everything we need to do to put it into compliance.
That's fine.
Good. So it sounds we need a motion?
Yes. I will move, do we do these two separately, Mr. Chairman?
Let us.
Okay.
Do them separately.
Then I would move that we continue the hearing on the request for a determination of applicability for 52 North Road, map 19, parcel S1 indefinitely.
I'll second that motion.
Second, Amy?
Just to be clear, it's not the request for determination, it's the change in plan for the existing determination of applicability.
Okay, I will amend my motion to reflect that.
Yeah,
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? Okay, that motion carries.
Okay, and I will make another motion to, with regard to the request for the amendment of the order of conditions for 47 North Road, map 19, parcel S2, to extend the hearing on that request indefinitely.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries as well.
Okay, thank you
So
very
we'll
much for your
see you at
time.
some point.
Thank you.
Eventually.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is notice of intent for 14 Mill Point Road, map 1, parcel J1-94. Amy?
Sorry, I was making notes. They've asked for a continuation to July 20th, 2022.
Can we have a motion, please, to continue this hearing? to July
Sure.
20th?
I'll move that we continue the hearing on the notice of intent for 14 Mill Point Road, map 1, parcel J1, dash 94, to our meeting of, what date, Amy?
July 20th.
July 20th, 2022.
Second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next item on the agenda, a notice of intent for Cold Brook Preserve, map 23, parcel C3-2, C1-0, and C1-1 for ecological restoration. Amy?
They've asked for a continuance as well to July 20th.
Okay, may we have a motion on this, please?
Sure. I'll move that we continue the hearing for the request for the notice of intent for the Harwich Conservation Trust Cold Brook Preservation, map 23, parcels C3-2, C1-0, and C1-1 until our meeting of July 20th, 2022.
Thank you.
Second.
Second?
Second, yeah.
Second, Wayne, thank you.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I abstain.
One abstention, 6 in favor. Okay, motion carries, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
since we're done with the hearings, can we take a little something out of order to get Master Chief McKinney taken care of first for her certificate of compliance?
certainly. Yep.
So he is for 44 Smith Street. It's a request for a certificate of compliance. So it was construction of a metal accessory building on the property. It abuts a bordering vegetated wetland and salt marsh and is partial floodplain to the Herring River. The building is compliance with the order. The owner was required to let 900 square feet of his lawn naturalize, and instead, he actually let close to 3,000 square feet naturalize. I did the inspection last week. He also installed a symbolic fence and put no mow signs up along it, and I would recommend a certificate of compliance to close this permit out.
Okay, great. This is where you're keeping your Roadrunner? GTO, sorry. I didn't mean to cross brands there. So can we have a motion for this, please?
Sure.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, wait. Okay, I'll move that we approve the certificate of compliance for 44 Smith Street, map 19, parcel A5, dot SE 32 2309.
And a second, please.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're going back to order of conditions for 42nd, 7 Saquatucket Bluffs Road.
Sure.
I had one comment on that, Amy. It says in the order of conditions that it requires half-inch spacing. Did we not want to have 3/4-inch spacing on the decking?
Our our spacing for docks is 3/4. This is a little weird. It's decking, and actually in our language for staircases over inland banks, which is the closest thing this comes to, is 1/2 inch. So that's why I put the 1/2 inch.
Does it pass over any vegetation? So salt marsh or anything?
No, it's a coastal dune. It's a dune. So spacing a 3/4 inch would be good, because what I would recommend is that once they build the stairs, that they plant the open areas underneath it with American beach grass. It has to be 18 inches above grade minimum anyways.
Yeah.
We can say 3/4 inches, but our requirements and our regulations, I think it's a little loose.
This didn't come up in discussion on the hearing, during the hearing?
You know what? Hold on, let me look at what their spacing might have been 1/4 inch and we went to 1/2. Hang on. Wait a minute. No, it says 1/2 inch. I can review that. We can look at the hearing, because I thought there was discussion on spacing. You're right.
Can we approve this pending?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So can we have a motion then to approve the order of conditions for 47 Saquatucket Bluffs pending potential change to the spacing of the decking?
Sure. I'll make a motion that we approve the order of conditions for 47 Saquatucket Bluffs Road, map 9, parcel A1-3, pending the review of the spacing between the various pieces of the stairway,
The decking.
of the decking, I'm sorry.
Second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. And we have a number of certificates of compliance. First one is 2A Hinkley Road. Amy?
It's a construction of a seasonal dock and boathouse reconstruction. Everything is now in compliance. We checked this a year or two ago, and the plantings hadn't been in that long. So now they have been. Everything is compliance. The walkway down the steep slope. The mitigation plantings have taken hold. Just so you're aware, they have asked for administrative approval. When I did a inspection there, I noticed a small stand of knotweed on the slope. I granted them administrative approval to immediately take care of that before it gets to be an even bigger issue. But for their permit for the dock, the rebuilt boathouse, and the walkway down the steep slope, I'd recommend a certificate of compliance for them.
All right, thank you.
How are they planning on getting rid of the knotweed?
I recommended that they actually hire a certified herbicide applicator to do it, using a cut and wipe method. I instructed them, it should be, what season it should be done. It's gonna have to be done a couple times.
Right.
But it is a small stand, only about the size of that table right now. You also have some bittersweet that's starting, but it's very minimal. So I told them basically if it doesn't, that slope is already very, very steep. And the knotweed and bittersweet will only destabilize it more, if they let heat. So I think they're on the same page with wanting to get that done. 'Cause they spent a lot of money also on that very large stone retaining wall to keep that slope where it is.
Any other questions? We have a motion then to approve the certificate of compliance for 2A Hinkley.
I'll make a motion, we approve the certificate of compliance for 2A Hinckley Road, map 91, parcel J3-8, and SE number 32-2266.
Thank you, Wayne.
I'll second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next one, certificate of compliance for 19 Shore Road. Amy?
This was for the installation of a septic. This was done a long time ago. It was just never closed out in the system. We checked and it matches with what was actually installed. We checked with the Board of Health records, so I would recommend a certificate of compliance for 19 Shore Road.
All right, thank you. Have a motion on this, please?
Sure, I'll move that we approve the certificate of compliance for 19 Shore Road, map B1, parcel 10, dot SF 32-1477.
Okay, SE 32, right.
Yeah.
A second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item is certificate of compliance for 34 Red Pine Drive, new dwelling and appurtenances.
They've withdrawn their request. They're not ready for it. About a third of their plants haven't made it.
So we don't need to take.
You don't
any
need to take any action.
All right, good. We move to the next items on the agenda, are discussion and possible vote. The first issue that we have is 163 Sisson Road. This involves some unpermitted activity behind the house as far as land clearing and the actions that have been taken since. Good evening.
Good evening.
This is the owner, Chris Pons, if you don't remember.
Yes.
So Chris provided a sketch plan that I provided you. It says, I put on top the owner diagram. So just to remind the commission, area was cleared between the wetlands through the 100-foot buffer zone on the property without authorization. And when I made aware of this, Chris had already actually seeded the area to help stabilize it and keep some of the knotweed out, which is what we would have instructed him to do anyways. When we went back out on site, I could tell that you had been working on pulling the knotweed as much as you can, and that you want to continue to be able to do that, which is a good thing. So I found the edge of the wetland and marked the 50-foot buffer. So the diagram that you see here is of the 50-foot buffer zone. On my plan that I took from his plan, but on mine, I put edge of wetland just like a foot or two off of the line. And that way you can see the 50-foot buffer as well as, so this is the revegetation of the entire 50-foot buffer. It was really clear when I went out there that prior to Mr. Pons doing the clearing that this was predominantly Japanese knotweed and probably some other invasives in there. So I think, I think we would have permitted the removal of the knotweed, but certainly required revegetation of at least the 50-foot buffer. So trying to look at it in that vein of this is what it was, we probably would have required, this is what we would have required. I tried to come up with a spin-off of his plan with what I would recommend, incorporating a few trees, some shrub clusters, and then some open area to kind of maintain a shrubby meadow was my thought there, that would still allow access in to be able to continue to take care of the knotweed. So that's my thoughts, but please, you can explain your thoughts behind it.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty much aligned there, is, revegetate, stay on top of the knotweed, just to prevent it from going back. And, since doing this work, pretty much weekly, I've been going there before mowing, just finding knotweed, digging it up, extracting it, throwing it out, and just trying to stay on top of it.
Vile stuff.
Yeah, it's good exercise. Gets me out from behind the computer some days.
So just so the commission knows, the 100-foot buffer, if you're at the property, is pretty much where it's like a berm. You come down from the house, it's flat for kind of flat-ish, flatter, and then it really, the mulched slope that was created, the base of that mulched slope is the 100-foot buffer zone. So it does not go up the slope. And then for the rest of the area, I would the 50 to 100, a native Cape Cod mix, no fertilizers, no chemicals, things like that. So I do think a lot, based on what was regrowing and what I've seen of the property, and it looks like the majority of the 100-foot buffer was invasive.
Okay. Good.
So that's, how do you feel about the plan that I made?
Yeah, no, I feel good about it. In fact, since then, I've reached out to Cape Organics to get their idea about it.
Perfect.
Just from the standpoint of, what's here, and he had a few comments, so I engaged him about, hey, would you be willing to do the actual planting?
That's great.
I am not a green thumb, so I want these things to live.
Well, we work with Lindsay from Cape Organics pretty frequently, and I would value his input if there was a way to make my plan better.
Yeah, his only comment was something about the fragrant sumac and how it kind of grows like wildfire and takes over some of the other things, but, I'm fine with, what you recommended. Maybe if he has another suggestion for something that
Maybe we
might
could
be a better
switch that
fit.
out.
Yeah, but I think in terms of the format of what you got here,
Yeah, if you see what what I did closer to the wetland is, I thought a couple of red maples right near the actual wetland edge would be wonderful, and then, because they would naturally grow there, and then kind of shrub clusters, and those are more wetland-type shrub clusters to provide what you would naturally have as your buffer as you get to a wetland, as a thicker buffer down there, and then thinning out a little bit into more of a meadow shrub habitat as you go farther up the slope. And then you would like to Mr. Pons immediately took the fence out of the 50-foot buffer after our last meeting. He would like to put it back at that he would like to put it on the 50-foot line, a split rail fence.
Rather than, this is showing it on the 90, no, that's.
No, that's
the
90
side.
foot, that's the dimension.
Yes, okay. All right, good. Any questions?
No, I don't have any.
Alan?
I just have a couple questions for formalities. In what you did was outside of the rules, and I understand what you did, it's no problem there, but as far as us, doesn't he have to file something to go forward to clear up the idea of what took place?
Technically, no. So you can handle it, we issued an enforcement order. An enforcement order you can do two ways. You can have an enforcement order to file an after-the-fact notice of intent to do the work, or you can actually have, basically, we have a meeting about this, it's an advertised agenda item. You can agree on a replanting plan under the enforcement order. You do not have to go through the formality, the cost, the time mostly. Because a lot of times with these enforcements, you want them to be taken care of quickly and expeditiously. You do not have to file an after-the-fact notice of intent for this work. If he was not amenable to doing that, then I would push it.
Okay, so the enforcement letter is the document.
The enforcement,
And then this is the
yeah.
cleanup, and this is all the
So,
remediation.
right, there was an enforcement order issued. There was, letter issued, and this is to clean.
Okay,
This is to close that loop.
okay.
And
thank
he
you.
would, when we agree to it, we would put conditions, I would follow up with another letter putting conditions, timeline, monitoring on that.
Well, thank you for answering that.
Yeah, no problem.
No other questions?
Mark?
No questions.
Stan?
No questions.
No, good. Yeah, I have no comments. Questions, the only comment I have is that my daughter tells me that Japanese knotweed can be used like rhubarb.
really.
But
It is edible, yes, when it's young.
If you can figure out a way to harness the energy of that and put it into something, you make a billion-dollar idea.
Biofuel.
Exactly.
Right, something.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, can we, do we need a motion on this?
So, what you could do is move to approve this plan that I made, but if there are modifications, slight modifications, like we want to change the fragrant sumac out, allow either me to do it administratively if it's just the one thing, or if it's a brand-new plan that you wanna do, then you have to come present it.
Okay.
But move to approve this plan, and we'll go from there, and I'll start a letter documenting all this with some conditions.
Okay. All right, so we'll have a motion to approve this plan.
Okay, I'll move that we approve the replanting plan displayed to the commission this evening that's in response to the enforcement order, with the potential that if there are to be any changes to this plan, that they be reviewed with our Conservation Commissioner and approved by Amy.
Second.
Second.
Discussion?
But with just the understanding that Amy's planning, not the original from.
No, I said the planting plan that was displayed with the commission tonight.
There were two of them.
Oh, there were two of them, I'm sorry.
So that's the intent anyway.
The intent was Amy's plan, correct.
Second.
All right, thank you, John. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
All right.
Thank you. We'll get a letter out to you soon. I'm on vacation next week. I'll try to get it out beforehand.
Okay,
Okay.
sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a discussion and possible vote with respect to an unpermitted fence at 2 Harvest Hollow.
I don't think that they're present,
Okay.
so maybe we'll put it, they were notified, I've had back and forth discussion with them. I hesitate to have discussion without them here, so let's put them on for the July 20th. Something could have come up.
All right. So do we need a motion to?
Let's, move to put this on the July 20th meeting.
Okay.
Okay, I'll move that we put the discussion and possible vote of the unpermitted fence at 2 Harvest Hollow Road to our meeting of July 20th, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Another couple of items, but most importantly, the next one is the discussion with respect to appointing a conservation liaison to the CPC. And John, I understand that you are currently our liaison,
Currently the liaison, yes.
and you're willing, you've indicated some willingness to continue in that?
I'm willing to continue unless there's someone else who.
Anybody else have any interest they'd like to express on that?
Would say that John is a great representation of our board on that
I
committee.
understand that. Yeah.
He's the man for the job then.
So can we have a motion then to re-up his appointment?
I'll make a motion that we re-up John Ketchum's appointment to the CPC.
How long is that term for?
It's
3.
3
3
years.
years.
It's with my, my term here. It's
Okay.
basically
All right, good.
So
Terrific.
I'll second the motion.
Seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Good. Motion
Thank you,
carries.
John.
Congratulations.
Okay.
So we have 3 sets of minutes that also had in our package to review. Hopefully people had a chance to take a look at them.
Do April 20th first.
We can do April 20th first. I did have a few comments, Amy.
Okay, whenever you're ready.
On page 2 in the 4th paragraph, the next to last sentence in that paragraph talks about adding whether the landform was a coastal bank or not was open to interpretation, and asked the commission members to, it should be weigh, W-E-I-G-H.
Oh, yeah.
Not weigh in.
Okay.
And then I have some comments on page 4, I believe, down at the bottom, the last sentence. It says, Mr. Wilcox stated that And I changed that to, rather than saying that they were not at this time, to say that there were none at this time.
There, yeah.
I think it's a little clearer as far as, the question was whether or not there were plans to replace the existing irrigation
There
system.
were none, yep. Okay,
There's a lot in this set of minutes. And I had no other changes. Melissa's doing a pretty good job with these things.
mm-hmm,
Very good job, I should say.
it is.
Are we getting close to done?
We are getting close
Wonderful.
to catching up.
Give everybody a few minutes if you want to take a look at the rest of them.
Anybody else for April 20th?
I'll move to approve minutes for April 20th, 2022.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. The next one is May 4th, 2022. This was hybrid meeting.
Yeah, this one was the one that got cut short because of a power surge, so I had to do my best. And actually, it turns out it wasn't recording during the first part of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So I have one correction, which is, I was here.
Okay.
I wasn't participating unless
Was that the night of the tech school?
Yeah,
So that presentation wasn't recorded?
right. I know.
So how do we handle that?
We didn't know it wasn't, you know, it wasn't being recorded. Somebody was here
Yeah.
doing the recording, so, I mean, as far as us, this is based on my bare recollection of
So-
it, but in terms of the presentation, we can make the presentation public on the, internet and whatnot, but we,
Right. But I think
Vote
we
on
need
the
to
minutes.
mention that in the minutes, though, don't we? Because the way they read right now, it was only after that they were continued.
yeah. We can certainly make a note, after this presentation, it came to light that it hadn't been recorded.
Okay. But it is, and it is being made available to the public on
Yeah, I was just
on
writing
our
it.
website.
Yeah.
So we have it, we have the film. Is that what you're saying?
So it wasn't, so what, I'm trying to remember what it was. It was taped, it was not live broadcast like it should have been. The live broadcast was down.
So there is a tape
So
record
there is
of
a
it.
tape of it,
So they can put it on Channel 18?
yeah.
So I looked on YouTube. YouTube, the town linked to YouTube recordings of Conservation Commission meetings. There was nothing
For this one,
for this one on YouTube.
I'll check it. I'll make I'll check it and we'll make a statement as to what.
Maybe what date was this meeting?
It was May 4th, it was the day of the power surge, Caleb.
Okay, I'll check our survey to see.
I know Matt was doing it, and, yeah, we had a surge. And we kinda we didn't know that we weren't online.
Yeah,
Should we just table this till next
Yeah,
meeting?
let's table this one.
Yeah, good idea.
sorry
Okay.
for interrupting.
No,
No,
no, I'm
thank
glad
you.
you did, Caleb, thank you.
So the next one is the minutes for June 28th, 2022. My comment on this, Amy, and this sort of carries through to some of the other ones as well. And this is the last item on the agenda, so I'm gonna bring up some other stuff too. There's a comment on page 2 where Wayne talked about, how he felt it was important to hear from the people that had created studies that were being quoted essentially out in Colebrook.
Yep,
And Michael said he would try to get the writers of them to attend the next hearing so they could answer questions. Nothing came from that I'm aware of. Or
well,
is
they're
that supposed
coming,
to be at this hearing?
no, it's supposed to be, on the 20th. The hearing, they continued to the 20th, so, we had our initial Coldbrook meeting, then we had this meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, and at
So
that,
they'll be coming during
that
their
is the hope.
presentation on the 20th.
That is the hope. We can't
Okay,
control them,
wonderful.
but yes, that is,
Good.
we have, made it clear that it would be much appreciated and
Yeah.
useful to have them there.
Okay, good. So I had no changes other than that. I don't know, Wayne, if you
No,
saw
I
anything
don't.
in there. Okay.
Melissa did a good job based on, I mean, basically she was taking hand notes of this because of this
Wow.
while we were out in the
Definitely
field,
good then. Yeah.
so.
I have no comment.
Okay. Anybody else? Speak now? We have a motion then?
I'll move to approve the minutes for the June 28th meeting of the commission at Coldbrook Preserve.
A second, please. Anybody? Second?
Okay.
Alan, Mark, you still looking at them?
I'm trying to get to them, yeah. Sorry.
Wanna look here? Wanna look at my
Yeah.
paper?
Yeah, that would be great. There you go.
And I have to abstain since I wasn't there.
I'm gonna abstain also.
Yeah, I am too.
And I was not there either, so,
We don't have a quorum then to vote on them.
right. Okay, so we'll have to continue these as well to the next meeting.
I'm trying to think if we'll even have, because Brad was there. I know you folks can't vote on them. So
What's the issue? Can we?
there's a
talk about-
conflict of interest. So, yeah, Alan and Wayne, we can't vote on minutes, and they can't participate in hearings as commissioners for the Coldbrook project. Not because of Coldbrook, just because of other
Right.
stuff with the Harwich Conservation Commission that they have going on.
Commission?
So,
No, trust.
trust, sorry. But, so Brad was at that meeting.
Brad and I and
Wayne and I.
Wayne and Alan,
So we didn't know about that until after.
Yeah, they didn't
Until after
know.
that meeting, I called the state ethics to ask them to get an opinion, and it was said that any business there that
Yeah.
going forward, I should recuse myself.
So how do you wanna handle
Let's
this?
hold on to it anyway, because Brad was at that meeting, and I want to see if he had any comments on the minutes.
All right,
And I'll ask the question, because if you were not at the meeting, but you don't have conflict, you can technically still vote to make the minutes legal. So, Mark, you could, if you read the minutes, you could be a voting member even if you weren't there. So I think we table it until next meeting,
okay.
July 20th.
Okay, let me ask if anyone has anything they'd like to bring up under the other business.
Just that the One Cape Conference is coming up. I've asked to see what the breakdown of the days are in terms of topics, to see because it's a 2-day conference at the Waquasit. It's always very good. And part of it's economy and environment. That's really what the focus is every year, and they deal everything with climate change and building, regulations as it deals with climate change and all this sustainability stuff. But they tell you it's 2 days, and they tell you it's whatever, $60 a day, but then they don't tell you what they're covering on each day. So when I find that out, I'll let you know. I know, John, you wanna go both days anyway, which is fine. I'm gonna go one day, Melissa's gonna go another, and I'll let you guys know what the agenda looks like.
What are the dates of that again?
You had to
First and
ask me
second,
that.
August 1st and 2nd, I
Okay.
believe.
All right.
At least I think that's what I put on my
No, that's
calendar.
right, it's a Monday, Tuesday, and it's, that's right.
So, I have something related to that, which is that APCC is very involved in the One Cape Conference. I attended a meeting more or less representing WASH, which is the Watershed Association of South Harwich, which looks after Skinfoot Pond, of a new effort that has been promoted by APCC, but also by the county to establish something, I think they're calling a Cape Cod Pond Network or something like that, which is looking for participation from towns and pond groups all over the Cape to participate and talk about, basically it's about degradation of freshwater quality, specifically focused on ponds, and trying to make up for the sort of lost focus. There was a focus in the early days of dealing with degraded saltwater quality. There was also a focus on freshwater quality, but the whole business of fixing up nitrogen flowing into saltwater estuaries sort of preoccupied everybody, and I think there's an attempt now to put some focus on freshwater quality, because a lot of ponds on the Cape, including Skinnequit Pond in a pretty big way, are suffering and showing algae blooms. In fact, Skinnequit Pond is already, it's showing signs of going downhill pretty fast this year. So I just want to put that out there. I think that, you know, aside from individual pond groups in Harwich, it might be good for the town as a whole to at least continue to be aware of what's happening with this group. But I just wanted to make you guys aware that that's going on.
Do we have an opportunity to put something about that on the conservation website, on our page?
What, that, about this group?
Yeah.
Is there a link to, like, even APCC's webpage on the conservation website?
I think Melissa put a link to it.
I forget whether they have a live page about the pond network or not, but
If
I
you
know
can
that-
send me the link to the pond network, that I could
Right.
create a link on ours.
I'll forward you the email invite I got
Perfect.
anyway, and for the meeting that was in early June, I think.
We don't have more meetings?
Well, I just got an email from them this past week saying, well, we're gonna have another meeting, but we don't know when it's gonna be, but come to the One Cape Conference, because we'll be talking about the
Yeah.
pond network there.
Oh, good.
What
Yeah.
is that, oh, excuse me, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that we kind of have a loose network of people working on things here, but it would be nice to have more of a consolidated group or effort behind this, and so more people can be aware of what's going on, because, you know, right now, if we get notice from the state or even APCC's monitoring data has to be verified now by the State Department of Public, or Barnstable County at least. So there's a little delay there. But it's basically, I know people in each of the, like, near each of these ponds. So what I do is if I get notification, like Skinnequit is one of the ponds we sample. So I always forward the data to John, knowing that he can share it with his members, or Dave Callahan over at Great Sand Lakes. If, Hinckley, I have people there, but we don't have, I would really love to have a group, people who, from each of kind of the major ponds here in Harwich, basically a stewardship type group that could be, made aware of that, and keep each other aware of what they're witnessing on the ponds, and be a spokes group for the town in recommendations.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
What is that One Cape Conference all about?
It's about, I mean, it's a very general, it's put on by the Cape Cod Commission with various different other agencies partnering. It's basically about Cape Cod's economy and how the economy is so intrinsically tied into our natural resources. So it weighs very heavily on conservation-related issues. Sea level rise, climate change, different adaptations, how everything is, and I can't speak too much about the economy aspect of it because I don't go to those ones usually. It's just a lot of time for me to invest, but they always relate, you know, infrastructure. I can't explain any better than this, unfortunately, at this time. Even though it's not that late, my brain's shutting down.
I get the gist of it.
But it's about how the economy and the natural resources
Yeah.
of the Cape intertwine. And it is very Cape Cod specific, which is unique because normally all these conferences are at least regional, or at least like New England or something like that. This is very particular to this special place that we call home.
That's because we are special.
We are.
Okay, good. Two other things that I had. One was, there was a memo that was sent around by Ellen Powell.
Oh, yes, thank you, I was gonna bring that up.
Yep, on open meeting law training for all commissioners. It's going to be done by KP Law on Tuesday, July 26th. They're gonna have two sessions, one 3 to 5 and the other 6 to 8.
I asked if it was mandatory.
Yeah.
Not because I don't want to do it, just because I would want to know, is it mandatory or not, so I could tell you. It is not mandatory, it's highly encouraged.
Oh,
I
yeah.
will be attending the earlier session.
What'd you say the second one was, 6 to 8?
6 to 8, yep.
Are you forwarding that memo to us? So-
I can, I can do that
Yeah,
tomorrow
I'd like-
morning, and you can let me know which one you want, and I can let Ellen know.
Right. Where's it gonna be held?
At the community center.
Community center,
Multi-purpose
multi-purpose room.
And the last thing that I had was a question on our RFP for the Herring River.
Yes. I have a handful of people who are interested in working with us. Now we gotta create a working group. So thank you for reminding me to do that.
Because we gotta get that moving.
Yes, we will.
We've lost a couple of months, I think, already, so.
Yep. Let me make myself a note.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask one additional question?
Yes, please.
Amy, has there been any new developments in the discussion of the agreement with Cape Cod Tech?
Nothing that I've heard.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
What is the Heron River RFP?
Remember, after we made our recommendations to at the town meeting to do things like put a dock moratorium in place and things, and it was turned down, but nonetheless, we still determined that we wanted to have a study done of the river, find out what's impacting it, what are the problems
Yeah.
with that thing.
Sorry, I just,
No
okay.
problem.
No, that's all right.
You got anything to sign on this?
One other thing too, now it's slipped my mind. I apologize, I'll think of it as soon as we adjourn.
There's a lot of little things.
All right. Anything else?
Yeah, can we steer them folks up Heron River, Herring River all the way up, rather than just the lower part? Is there a limitation to?
I think we had, we haven't put a limitation. We'll talk about it during what we want the study to encompass. The moratorium was gonna be from like just north of the bridge, but the
Right.
study of the river,
The
we
entire river?
haven't
Yeah.
put a limitation on it
Yeah,
Good.
at this
Okay.
time, so.
because Liz, again, she's always out looking for stuff. She was at south of North Bridge,
Yeah,
the footbridge,
yeah.
and at low tide, and she counted like 20 dead eels
Wow.
in the flats.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Huh.
That's interesting.
Don't know why, and they all look like juveniles. I mean, they're all like this. She took a picture I can send to you. I sent it to Brad.
Interesting.
and I
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
You know, what's going on?
Quite hardy.
That's very interesting. Yes,
'Cause
they
they
are
were-
quite hardy.
Yeah, because those eel traps that are in the river up there right now, I thought were supposed to be out by now.
That's for,
Those
are they
also-
eel traps? Those are, some are blue crab traps.
Are they? They're all, they've been in there for a
I
long
don't
time.
think you're allowed to trap eels anymore in the river.
Yeah, Brad, I talked to Brad about it, because I
Okay.
saw these red buoys
Oh,
like every
secret?
20, 25 feet. in the river.
Those, so actually, I was out there crabbing myself,
Yeah,
and the guys who were checking the traps came by, they are crab traps.
oh, they are crab, okay, because there were eel traps in there earlier in
Yeah.
the year.
Really?
Yeah,
That was real big in the 70s.
yeah,
Real big.
so,
I got my daily limit, by the way, in like
Oh, what, crabs?
an
crab.
hour,
There, did you? Oh,
Really?
Yeah?
Really?
right by the North Road Bridge.
Is that right?
Enough for a sandwich?
One crab per, yes. Hey, you have 25, you know that, per day?
Good to know. Yeah, I
All
didn't
blue
realize
crab.
they were, so they're really up there right now, huh?
Not anymore.
I know, she got them all.
Here, go looking. Okay, I think we're good unless anybody has anything else.
One quick little thing.
Yeah.
I was wondering if perhaps we could drop a bug in the ear of the Conservation Trust folks and perhaps suggest a drone flyover of the Colebrook.
Oh, that would be fun.
As it is.
Yes.
I think that would be great for presentation, understanding, public awareness in particular.
I don't think HCT has a drone, but I think DER has a drone. Huh? Channel 18 has a drone. We could do it.
Boy, that would be great. I
Caleb,
think
would
that
you-
would be really good for the public to
Would be
get
good.
Good idea.
an eyeball on the entire project.
Yeah.
And really to see how big it is.
Well,
And
we'll have to
also, we
coordinate
get
with the
some,
trust, Caleb,
before
but
and
that-
after.
I can work with you on that.
Yes.
That would be a fun day.
Uh,
I'll talk with Channel 18 and HCT as long as HCT is okay to do that, so.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Good idea.
Good idea.
Anything else?
They may have already done it too. DER may have done it, so we'll check with them.
DR.
Department of Ecological Restoration with the state.
Oh, okay.
So they
state,
were the
it's not a
ones,
town.
yeah, Eric Ford, who was at the last meeting, and they're with, Department of Ecological Restoration. They're a subset of DEP.
If they did, the age of it would be interesting. If it was done a few years back
Sure,
compared to a current one,
yeah,
for the sake of comparison, to see the growth rates of what's there.
yeah.
Interesting information.
We will check that out.
Wow, that would be interesting on Herring River too, to do that a couple times a year at the same state of tide.
That's true.
Okay, I don't have anything else for you.
Okay, good. Can we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks, everyone.
I got a bunch of things for you to sign.
Oh,